Okay. Hi, everyone. Welcome to our session today, to Vicky Karnataka Yoga Council Speaker Series session. Today, we're going to have a conversation with Dr. Nidhi Choudhary on understanding an ideal and synced menstrual cycle. Thank you, Dr. Nidhi, for joining us today. Before we start, I'm just going to give a quick introduction to people who are new to Vicky, so they just know a little bit about Vicky. So Vicky Karnataka Yoga Council is part of the Women's India Chamber of Commerce and Industry, which is Wiki India, which is the larger council group. And it's a premier national business chamber for women envisioning global impact for women entrepreneurs, businesswomen, and professionals from all walks of life. It's under the umbrella of the federation, which is called the FICCI. And some of Vicky's goals are to drive fundamental changes in governmental policies, laws, incentives, and entrepreneurial ecosystems to encourage and empower women in business, industry, and commerce across all sectors and fields. The Vicky Karnataka Yoga Council was founded on the 21st of June 2020, and some of our past noteworthy projects are petition to reopen yoga shalas after the COVID lockdown, Yoga Samvad, a conversation on women, wellness, and yoga, Parishraya, a gathering of women yoga teachers across Karnataka. We also had a video series about the business of yoga. We have an ongoing newsletter and Yogini Awards as well. Our vision and mission is to develop world-class, globally recognized work in the field of yoga, to build a healthy community and ecosystem around yoga in Karnataka, to empower women yogipreneurs, to facilitate a larger conversation around yoga careers beyond the classroom, to develop scholarships in yoga, and to raise awareness on the work done by women in Karnataka and around the world in the field of yoga. You can follow us on Vicky KA Yoga on Instagram, as we're also there on Facebook. This event is also currently being live streamed on YouTube for those of you who want to watch this event at a later date. A little bit about Dr. Nidhi Choudhary. It's an honor to have Dr. Nidhi Choudhary today because she's also part of the Wiki India Council. So a little bit about Dr. Nidhi Choudhary. She's a yoga researcher and consultant in the field of yoga for women's health. Her master's and PhD in yoga sciences, coupled with an experience of 19 years of yoga teaching, provided her a platform to explore the health restorative effects of yoga for multiple medicinal conditions like PCOS, infertility, and menopause. Dr. Nidhi's doctoral work on polycystic ovarian syndrome was funded by the Ministry of Ayush, Government of India, and was a landmark publication in the field. This was the first ever study done to estimate the burden of PCOS in India and also to propose and demonstrate that yoga could prevent and resolve PCOS. Dr. Nidhi has also conducted highly sought after women's health workshops in US, Singapore, and Japan. She's liaised with the Government of India as part of the team that was instrumental to the first International Day of Yoga. Development of the curriculum for yoga certification by the Quality Council of India, and a regular faculty at the World Yoga Festival, which is held in Rishikesh. Dr. Nidhi has championed yoga programs at many fertility and maternity hospitals and helped hundreds of patients while mentoring postgraduate and doctoral research activities at the prestigious S. Vyasa Yoga University. She's also the CEO and founder of Yoga Plus. She's an assistant professor at the Vivekananda Yoga University in Los Angeles and a visiting faculty in Vyasa, Singapore and Bangalore. She's also a core member of the Wiki team and the Yoga Council, Integrative Medicine Research Training Program from the prestigious MD Anderson Cancer Center in Houston, Texas. She's also got the Yoga Lakshmi Puraskara in March 2019 and Gargi Yogini Award in December 2021. Thank you, Dr. Nidhi, for joining us. And the Dr. Nidhi is also a very dear friend of mine. She's also been my mentor ever since I started my yoga teaching journey. So it's really an honor to have you here with us. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So nice to see all of you here. So we'll keep an interactive session. I want to talk about the menstrual cycle, which is very, very basic. And many of you have attended the classes on or workshops on PCOS, infertility, menopause, like more complicated topics by me. But I have chosen to go back to this basic topic of menstrual cycle because I realize how much ignorance is still existing when it comes to understand how your cycles can affect your general health and well-being. So it becomes very crucial to figure out how to correct your cycles in the beginning rather than trying to recover from a major illness later in the life. So we're going to go through some of the basic things, but I would also like to introduce some topics like lunar cycles and how your menstrual cycles are correlated to the lunar cycles, which is topic I realize again that many people are not really aware of. Some of the things which have gotten missed maybe in few generations. And today the women are really not knowing these basic stuff. So let's go through. I'll keep the presentation also on, but we'll keep it interactive. And Priya and I are going to discuss. And if you have any questions, if you have any doubts on the content that I'm going to share, please put it in your chat box and we'll try to take it at the end. Hope that's fine.
Yeah, that should work. We'll also open it up to our audience at the end so they can just ask their questions directly.
Sure. So yeah, I'll just share the PowerPoint and then we can start.
Yep.
So that we keep both.
Certainly.
I don't have the option to slide share. Okay. Yeah, Priya.
Okay. So, just like you said, right, Nidhi, we're going back to the basics. As many of us are yoga teachers here and we teach as well, it's very important for us to first understand ourselves first before we incorporate and integrate all of this, in our yoga practice and while teaching. So, let's start by understanding what are the signs of a healthy menstrual cycle. How does an ideal menstrual cycle look like?
Yeah. So before we go into understanding the signs of a healthy menstrual cycle, which can fluctuate based on your age, what age you belong to. So the reproductive life for a woman starts at her menarche, which on an average is today, it's on an average close to 10 years. 10 years of age is when the girls are starting to have their first menstrual cycle. And the reproductive life will last until your menopause, which is also shifting from one generation to the other. So today, the average age for menopause is close to between 45 and 50. Okay. So these are the total number of years where our body is undergoing ovulation, producing egg for a possible fertilization, possible pregnancy. And this is a cyclical thing happening at every 28 days, 29 days length, because of which our body has to undergo menstrual cycles or menstruations. So if the woman's body is designed for fertilization or pregnancy, and that's why we undergo menarche and menopause. Now, as our body produces an egg every month, releases a mature egg every month, and it is available for a certain time for fertilization. But if the fertilization doesn't happen, the egg and the inner layer of the uterus, all of that sheds and comes out in the menstrual bleeding. And that's like reset. After that, the body has to restart everything all over again. And that's the cycle we are going through every 28 days. Now, the length of the cycles or the signs of the cycles can vary based on the age. So, for a teenage girl, the cycles could be little irregular. Medically, for first 6 months to up to 1.5 years, there could be an irregularity with the cycles when it is a young girl whose cycles are first time starting. So there could be girls whose first cycles probably starting around the age of 10, and it's not very regular. It's not coming every month. Probably it is happening once in 2 months, 3 months initially, and then slowly it has to settle down. The body has to get adjusted to this rhythm, cyclical rhythm, and then it becomes more regular after that. So, if we see a teenage girl who's having irregular cycles or some symptoms, we won't jump on to treating it. We won't consider it as an imbalance. It will be considered as the normal phase to try to adjust to these changes in the body. And doctors would also give it a time of approximately 1 to 2 years and without any intervention. The similar thing, after that, the cycles would get some rhythm and regularity. And based on your lifestyle, your body will produce certain types of hormones, and you would have either extreme PMS or moderate PMS or very, very mild symptoms of PMS. Up to when you reach kind of close to your menopause, premenopause or perimenopause state. That's when again the cycles start to fluctuate because we are reaching to the end of this reproductive life. And again, the cycles would start to go very extreme. They can go to extreme bleeding, to very scanty bleeding, to too frequent, to too delayed, or absent menstrual cycles before it comes to complete stopping of the cycles, which is when you attain menopause, which is when your body stop to ovulate, stop to release eggs, and your ability to fertilize also goes away. So the cycles can vary based on the age, but generally 2 to 3 years after your menarche, till you hit your premenopause, you would have, on an average, a moderate average cycle length, moderate average PMS symptoms. Yes, the complete bleeding may reduce with the age. So you may have bleeding which is lasting 5 to 6 days, maybe in younger age range when you are in 20s. And it may reduce to 3 to 4 days when you are crossing 30s or 40s. And as you go closer to the menopause. So there is a kind of a graph to all of this. But if you look at an adult woman, anywhere between 20s to 40, which is the main period of this reproductive life, we want an ideal cycle to be anywhere between 26 to 40 days length. Okay, but the most ideal is 28 days. But if it is anywhere between 26 to 35 or maximum 40, we would still consider it okay. The bleeding should not be too much or too less. 50 ml of blood loss per month is considered normal, which is approximately 2.5 tablespoon. The more important thing I have realized with my patients is that they know about the cycle length, they know about the amount of bleeding based on the products they are using, but they are unaware of that this bleeding need to be what color and without a smell. That's considered one of the significant sign of a healthy menstrual cycle. So your cycle's color need to be bright red. That means it is quite healthy. If it is darker in color, like some people ends up having purplish maroon color, which means that your body is producing too much estrogen, which will cause other issues as well. By the end of the cycle, like the fifth day or so, it do gets little darker brownish in color, but that's okay. But in the first 2 days, 3 days, it need to be bright red in color, and there should not be any foul smell in your cycles. Mostly it should be liquid, flowing liquid. There can be one or few amount of clots, but they need to be very, very small, approximately your thumbnail size, which is what your follicle and the endometrial walls could be shedding in a clotty shape, but it should not be too much clots. That means your hormones are disturbed and your endometrial wall is growing too thick, which will lead to excess bleeding as well and extreme cramps as well. There shouldn't be any pain, minimal pain to no pain, in the sense that it should not affect your day-to-day activities. Whatever you are doing before cycles, you should be able to continue to do the same amount of activity without feeling the struggle, without feeling extreme exhaustion. Then you can be sure that your cycles are going on absolutely normal. In December 2015, the American College of Obstetrics and Gynecology, they declared that menstrual cycle is the fifth vital sign of our health after your body temperature, pulse rate, respiration rate, and blood pressure. So it has been given a status to look at how well you are doing, how's your health, how are you having any sickness, illness, or your body is struggling. So menstrual cycle is the fifth in the line to judge or to account for that, which we should give importance to.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Okay, so now I would like to go into the second topic of probably understanding the cycles in detail and the phases of the menstrual cycle. So that we understand it correctly, what are the 4 phases of the menstrual cycles? And what are the do's and don'ts for those 4 phases? Which is what I feel most of the people are ignoring and doing mistakes in that. At that, what phase we should be doing what activities or eating what type of food and all. So the term menstruation derives from a Latin word menses, which means moon, and it refers to the lunar month that lasts about 28 days long. In history or in past, doctors or physicians used to connect women's cycle to the lunar cycles because both has the same length of 28 days or 29 days. Also, according to medieval yogic text Vashishta Samhita, women are considered as lunar beings and men are considered as solar beings. Okay, so let's go to the main point that we are here for. How do we sync our cycles? How do we bring them to that ideal state? Or what is it when we say my cycles are synced or I'm trying to sync my cycles? So cycle syncing is the practice of adjusting your daily routines, your eating habits, your movement habits, what type of exercise or sports do you play, your self-care, your mindset, to synchronize with where you are in your menstrual cycle. So do everything according to the phase of menstrual cycle you are in. If you do that, your cycles become very synced and you will feel that the symptoms or the uneasiness, they all are reducing and you feel much lighter and positive in your cycles. This in turn allows for optimal hormonal balance, productivity, energy, mood, and brings you more in tune with your body's rhythm. So all of you must be aware of, we have 4 phases in our menstrual cycle. The first one is the menstrual phase. The second one is follicular phase. The third is ovulation. And the fourth is luteal phase. These are the 4 phases which gets divided in the month. So the menstrual phase is the time when we are having the menstrual bleeding, the first 5 days of the month. This phase is characterized by the lowest level of reproductive hormones. Your hormones are quite low and your uterus inner lining is shedding, which is what comes out as menstrual bleeding. So you will feel quite low in energy at this point, and you would feel like you don't have interest in doing things at this point of time. So how do you sync yourself to this phase of menstrual cycle? What are you supposed to eat? You should not be touching any cold food during this phase. The first 4 or 5 days of your menstrual bleeding, you should not touch any cold food items. You should take only warm, cooked food. You should try to focus on iron-rich food because as you are bleeding, your hemoglobin levels start to go down. Your body requires to boost up your iron levels. And you can stick to healthy fats. Healthy fat is like the ghee, is considered as the most healthy fat. So try to stick to these kind of light, easily digestible food, but it need to be warm and cooked, nothing cold. Try to focus on iron rich like green leafy vegetables or beetroot and things. Healthy fat like ghee. Movement. Stick to a slow restorative practices. According to yoga as well, yogic text as well, we are not supposed to do any heavy exercise during these 5 days. If you end up doing too much exercise, forcing your body to do more than what it is supposed to do during these 5 days, it will eventually lead to amenorrhea. Amenorrhea is the delayed or absent menstrual cycles, which is a common occurrence. Who are the people who will be ending up exercising all the time and too much? Athletes, where the cycles will not be a consideration. Okay, so people who are professional athletes, if you go and research about it, you would be surprised to note that most of the professional athletes, women, suffer from amenorrhea, absence of menstrual cycles or delayed menstrual cycles. It's very, very common, and it is the side effect of too much of exercise and not syncing it to your cycles because it's their profession. But otherwise, what the yoga text tells us is we should slow down. We should not do any heavy activity or heavy exercise. We should try to do maybe a restorative practice or a yin yoga type of yoga practice during the menstrual days, or probably just go for a slow stroll or walk or spend good enough time on rest. Okay, that's the guidelines which are given for menstrual phase of the cycle.
And to that, Nidhi, I just want to add it's not just athletes. A lot of us here are yoga teachers, right? So we also teach a good few hours every day. So it's very important for us also to, rest and relax. So then we're not stressing our bodies out too much during the first menstrual phase. So that's something, we need to keep in mind as well.
Yes. So we cannot preach what we not practice.
Exactly.
So we would have to ensure as a yoga teacher that when we are menstruating, we don't overdo our practice. And we let our students also know that I will not be doing the practice for these 3 days or these 4 days. I would just give the instructions, I would just guide you, I can just help you, but I will not get into these poses right now. So we should practice that, and then only we can help. We can create ideal cycles and we could help the
Exactly.
students and get them motivated to follow these guidelines. Okay, so other than the eating in movement, we should also know what is our mindset and how do we do self-care during the menstrual phase. The mindset generally during the menstrual phase is to not interact too much, don't get involved in outside too much, try to be reflecting and looking inwards, try to slow down rather than hurrying and trying to do multiple things at this point. For these 5 days, you should try not to take too many things in hand. Try to spend a good amount of time on meditation or resting. Scientifically, in general, women require more sleep than men. And if a man can manage with a total sleep of around 6 hours in a day, a woman's body require close to 8 hours per day. And that increases to probably 9 hours during the menstrual phase. You require more rest during menstrual phase in general. Then coming to the second phase, which is the follicular phase. So this phase, after the bleeding has stopped, this phase is characterized by the estrogen and testosterone rising. So your hormones start to rise. This is the upward part of the graph. It is moving upward. So everything is kind of slowly increasing. Your hormones are slowly increasing. Your energy level is slowly increasing. And you can start feeling much better in this phase. Probably the first half of the follicular phase, you may not feel so good, which is between the day 6 to day 10. But in the second part, between day 10 to day 14, is the stage where you will feel very, very nice, very good. Like your energy level, your mood, your hormones, everything would be in a much better state. So your ovaries would already be stimulating another egg for the next cycle. And in this phase, women should try to focus on fermented food. For South India, it's not a problem. You can stick to idli dosa during this stage and try to stick to a lot of green vegetables and carrots, other vegetables during this phase. As your estrogen levels starts to peak, and if your body, for the women who have too much of cramps or too much of PMS symptoms or issues related to high estrogen level, if your body is producing too much of estrogen, more than what is required, what is that you can do in your lifestyle to help it is take more fiber, more intake of fibrous vegetables, fruits, lot more intake of fruits and vegetables. Fiber can bind the estrogen in your body, excess of estrogen in your body, and take it out with the waste. So you are not left with that high levels, which will create symptoms and uneasiness or other problems. So the easiest thing to do is, if you see signs of high estrogen in your body, just increase the intake of fibrous fruits and vegetables. Movement, this is the best time of the month. You could get back to high level of activity. You can get into actually strength training. If you want to get into extra weight or strength training, follicular phase is the ideal period to be doing that. You can challenge yourself with fast-paced yoga or advanced yoga postures, or you could go into hiking or cycling. All of that is ideal during follicular phase. Your body will automatically feel much better. You would feel like, yeah, I can do it. I think I can achieve it in this phase. So if you try planning to start a dynamic yoga or advanced yoga practice, try not to start it in luteal phase or menstrual cycle, menstruation time. Try to begin it at your follicular phase, and you will see that you won't get demotivated. You would be able to continue and achieve better things during this phase. This is the time when your brain also is doing much better. You don't have the confusion, your mood is much higher, you don't have the brain fog. So you can get into creative things, you can get into networking, you can get into brainstorming during this phase, because your mind will be able to cope with that. Self-care, try new things, focus more on adventure and fun at this part, as your body can match that right now. Then the third phase is the ovulatory phase, when the egg is released from the ovary and is available for fertilization. This phase is characterized by the release of an egg, and your hormones are at peak at this time. And that's why you glow, you feel better, your skin feel better, your hairs feel better, your emotion feels like you can achieve anything at this point. So ovulatory phase is really the best time, but it's the shortest time. It lasts for only 2 or maximum 3 days. You should stick to antioxidant rich vegetables and fruits at this time. So try to stick to a lot of greens again, but you can have a lot of berries at this time, which will help your body. Cruciferous vegetables also good during this time. You can do highest intensity or strength training during your ovulatory phase, because you feel the best. You don't have any cramps, your muscles are not feeling exhaustion, your energy level is like at the peak, so you feel like I can do everything at this point. So if you are starting a new physical activity in follicular phase, you would be able to achieve the best during your ovulation. If you have continued for a week or 10 days of the same practice. The mindset, highest energy, most social and magnetic, communication at its best during ovulatory phase. So you can talk, you can like bargain, you can convince people, all of that at its best during ovulatory phase. Self-care, you can get into long talks or you can have date nights during ovulation. And the last phase is the luteal phase. This phase is characterized by rising progesterone, fasting metabolism, and other hormones peaking before they drop. So this is your PMS phase. And this is where the things start to go down south. And you probably start to have mood which is going low, your energy levels start to drop. Your metabolism will make you hungry. You will start having cravings. Your sleep will also get disturbed again. So this phase, you will see all those symptoms. And this is kind of the longest phase in the cycle because it is lasting from day 15th to day 28th, which is the longest out of the whole month.
Almost half the cycle.
Yes, sadly, half the cycle. But you can divide it based on an individual to individual. Some people don't have that long or that bad PMS. Then you can divide these days into two phases. The first half where you don't feel so much anything.
Mhm.
The second half closer to your cycles where you feel the PMS changes occurring.
Got it. So, Nidhi, you explained these four phases to us. As we age and we grow, how do these four phases change?
The phases stays the same.
Okay.
So even when you are reaching premenopause, you
Mhm.
will still have the follicular phase, ovulation, luteal phase, menstruation. But yes, your ovulation may feel little less intense. Your menstruation may feel little more intense. That changes within each phase may occur, but the
Mhm.
four phases will still be there even until menopause.
Got it. Just the duration will vary, right?
Duration or how you're feeling in each of those phases.
Okay.
Those
Got
may
it.
start to change with the age,
Understood.
especially when you are reaching premenopause.
Right. Okay. Another thing that, around these phases, how does one know which phase they're in?
Based on your cycle's length, if it is an ideal, as I said,
Mhm.
between 26 to 35, then this is a preset numbers.
Okay.
5 days of menstruation. Then from day 6 to day 14 is the follicular phase.
Mhm.
And between 13, 14, 15, 3 days for ovulation. And 16 to 28 is the luteal phase.
Got it. Okay.
It's a preset thing, a standard for an average healthy cycle. But yes, if your cycles are little irregular or they are little lengthier or shorter, then everything will change accordingly.
Understood. And you also mentioned a lot about PMS. Can you tell us what is PMS and why is it that women experience PMS?
Okay, so PMS is a very wide term, premenstrual symptoms.
Mhm.
It includes a lot of things.
Okay.
The most commonest symptom is the cramps, uterus cramps. So girls, young girls and any adult woman
Mhm.
during their premenstrual phase, like 1 week before the cycles begin. The previous week, you may start feeling cramps in the uterus, or just the day or 2 days before the cycle begins, you start feeling the uterus muscles cramping. It's similar like labor. It's the same thing happening physiologically, but at a very less intense as compared to labor. Why does this happen? During your cycles, your body produces a hormone called prostaglandins, which makes the uterus muscles to cramp or undergo those contractions so that it can shed that endometrial layer. For it, the inner layer of the uterus to shed, it has to have those contractions or cramps.
Got it.
Those cramps occurs because of the body producing that hormone prostaglandins. But now some people have high level of prostaglandins, which makes these cramps very intense. And some people have less level of prostaglandins, which makes these cramps almost negligible. So it depends on how your body is producing those hormones.
What are some practices that we can do to reduce PMS symptoms?
To be able to have regular ideal cycles will correct all of this automatically. Okay. Plus, if we want to go into the details of how do let me just ask you in return. How does a woman body can have ideal levels of prostaglandins, estrogen, progesterone?
I think
Why do they go irregular levels?
it's a combination of multiple different factors, right? It's obviously, are you doing yoga? Are you doing exercise? Are you eating well, right? Are you very stressed out, right? Because all of those stress plays a very important role in how your hormones are being generated in the body, right? So it's a combination of all of that, plus food as well.
Yeah. So if you want to ask me, like, what are the things if we have to list, what should we be worried about when we want to correct our hormones to the ideal levels? Then I would list out 4-5 things. The first would be the food that we eat.
Okay.
So are you having a fiber-rich diet or no? That plays a very important role when it comes to estrogen, progesterone, prostaglandins. If your diet is not having enough fiber, it can end up increasing your estrogen levels. Okay. The second thing would be to have a correct sleep cycle. So are you following a circadian rhythm?
Okay.
Are you sleeping with the sunset, reducing activities and getting your body to get ready to sleep with the sunset? Are you waking up with the sunrise and your body becoming active with the sunrise? If you're following that or not, because if you don't follow that, it in turn affects your hormone levels. The third is the activity. Are you having a sedentary lifestyle? Are you doing a moderate amount of physical activity? No extremes, not too much of exercise, but not having exercise at all also really bad. The fourth is the stress management. How do you be able to manage your mind and emotions? If it is too stressful, it will start affecting your hormones, the whole HPA, HPO excess. And the fifth thing is, which is, I feel in today's generation, we have to worry about this fifth one now, is the exposure to estrogen disrupting chemicals in the things that we are using. Okay, do you think we are having the most exposure? estrogen disrupting or
Medicines, right? I've seen medicines, just hormone balancing medicines. If I know that young girls, they get acne and other things in the body, there's hair fall, doctors just start prescribing hormone balancing medicines, which I think it has a long term impact, because it does, in the short term it may work, but then it definitely does have a long term impact on the individual.
it's not just the medicine. Why does the girl started having the issues before she went to medicine? Is in our lifestyle we are using too many stuff. All the cosmetics which comes with a smell is going to disturb your hormones. Creams, shampoos, sunscreens, powders, nail paints, lipsticks, everything which the girls at a very younger age start to use. The clothing, yoga clothing, the worst.
Yeah. Yoga mats.
Yoga pants are the worst thing, which is right now disturbing the hormones. It's all made of microplastics.
Yep.
And it disturbs your estrogen levels very quickly, very easily. Blue light,
Yes.
screens, computers, laptops, phones, they are disturbing our hormones very easily. Now tell me, which one of this is the most prevalent?
Everything.
Everything is highly prevalent and not for the age. This is the exposure which is the complete generation having.
That's true.
Like younger girls, adult women, old women. Everybody is having these exposures and it is causing the imbalance.
Right. So, what can be some of the signs? So, we've been talking about, hormonal imbalance. How does one know that, I have excessive estrogen in my body versus progesterone? Are there certain signs that we need to keep a lookout on?
Generally, all this, if you are experiencing that your cycles and PMS is not ideal, and it is fluctuating any direction from that, then you can go and get it checked medically, because it has to be the length, the bleeding, the type of the bleeding, the smell of the bleeding, cramps, energy level. All of that has to be on that scale, the first slide that I showed. As soon as it is going away from that, it's because of hormonal issues.
Understood. And also, Nidhi, food plays a very important role in our lives, right? And especially as women, we have to take care that we're not just eating regular food, but then either additional supplements and seeds, etc. So, can you talk to us a little bit about what is a seed cycle? Like, how should our food be different in every cycle?
So the food, as I have mentioned in the previous slides, I was talking about that the appetite can also varies. So you may feel a little less hungry during menstrual phase and your follicular phase. But then from ovulation to luteal phase, you start craving and getting too hungry. And this is where, if you don't have the awareness and control, you end up binge eating, you end up eating stuff which might be causing like craving, like when you feel sugar craving in the luteal phase, you end up, if you're not having the awareness and control, you might end up having too much of that. The ideal replacement in luteal phase is something, a slow carbohydrate, which will take long, keep you full and takes long to digest. So the simplest food during that luteal phase is sweet potato. The best food item during that luteal phase, which will help you not to get into binge eating. plus keeps you full and gives your body that carb which is required during luteal phase just before the cycles start. So try to stick to more complex carbohydrate in luteal phase.
Mm-hmm.
Try to stick to more fiber during your follicular phase. Try to stick to antioxidant rich food during your ovulation.
Okay.
This is how you should divide, and it will take care of those hormones. When it's high, you need more fiber. When it is low, you need more complex carb.
Got it. Okay.
So try
And
to
what's
stick
the
to that.
seed cycle, Nidhi?
Yeah, so seed cycling is the way you incorporate certain seeds into the phases of your menstrual cycles, which can help balance these hormones, estrogen and progesterone, in the most natural way. So,
Mm-hmm.
the first line of correction for any patient who is struggling with hormonal issues or menstrual issues, we try to not jump onto any complex diets and all. We try to give them the simple thing called seed cycling, where there are 4 seeds which you need to take during these phases of the menstrual cycles. And they kind of correct your estrogen progesterone levels. Let me share the slide for you to understand. Okay. So seed cycling is basically that between your day 1 to day 14, the first half of the month,
Mm-hmm.
you are going to take flax seeds and pumpkin seeds. 1 tablespoon of flax seeds, 1 tablespoon of pumpkin seeds during the first half of the month until ovulation. The second half of the month, between 15th to once you start your menstrual bleeding, 28 day. During that phase, you're going to take 1 tablespoon of sunflower seeds and 1 tablespoon of sesame seeds.
Okay.
These two for the second half of the month. So basically, the flaxseed helps to bind excess of estrogen in your body, which is what occurs during the follicular phase. After your bleeding has stopped, then your cycles, the egg is again getting selected and your body is starting to increase the hormonal levels until it reaches ovulation when it is its peak. In the luteal phase, the hormones will start to drop down again, and it goes to the like minimum at the time of the menstruation and during the bleeding. So the flax seeds is binding that extra estrogen which is at rise during the follicular phase.
Okay.
The pumpkin seed, which is rich in zinc, which helps support progesterone production as body prepares for the second phase of the cycle. So they both are taking care of that during the first half of the month. The second half of the month, the sesame seed helps boost progesterone production, which is necessary for your cycles to begin. Okay, and it will reduce the excess of estrogen. Sunflower seeds, which are rich in vitamin E and selenium, which is also necessary for your thyroid gland's function. Selenium is what is essential for the thyroid gland functions as well. So vitamin E boosts the progesterone. Selenium helps detox excess estrogen again. In the second half of the month, progesterone level should increase and extra estrogen should reduce for your cycles to begin on time with bare minimum PMS symptoms.
Okay.
So these 4 seeds can actually correct if the problem is still at the beginning level. We see that some of the patients who take seed cycling or just do some moderate amount of exercise, the problems actually gets resolved on its own.
Wow. And how long does it take, Nidhi?
Any hormonal issue
Mm-hmm.
takes minimum 3 to 6 months to recorrect.
Okay.
Any hormonal issue. whether it is the problem with estrogen, progesterone, thyroid, any hormones. Minimum length scientifically is 6 months of intervention to see improvement or changes.
Got it. And is there an age limit, or anybody right from when they get their menstrual cycle till menopause can take
Yeah,
it?
all
Okay.
can take seed cycle, can follow the seed cycle throughout the reproductive life. There's no limitation, age limitation for this.
Understood. Okay. Lizzie, would you also? I got a few questions here, so I'm just going to read them out as well, and then we can continue. So, would you also be able to tell us a little bit about what are the premenopausal symptoms and what are menopausal symptoms?
Okay, so medically,
Maybe
there
we.
is no test
Mhm.
to find out whether the woman is reaching menopause or has reached menopause.
There's
You
no
need
test.
no blood test or any medical test to do that.
Okay.
You can't go to the hospital and ask that, okay, can you do my test and look at my hormones and tell me whether I'm premenopause or menopause.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing like that. Because your body goes through a lot of fluctuation when you are trying to get to menopause. So if you
Right.
do a blood test right now
Mm-hmm.
and your hormone levels are showing very low, 2 hours later it can be very high. So it doesn't make any sense to do a blood test or hormonal test and try to come to a conclusion based on that. That's not possible. Medical books gives the definition of menopause as if you have gone through 12 months without having any menstrual bleeding.
Mm-hmm.
That means 1 year without menstrual cycles. Then you have attained menopause.
Okay, then you've attained menopause. And premenopausal symptoms?
Premenopause can last any length. The sad part is we used to think it will be approximately anywhere between 6 months to 2 years before you attain menopause. You might be having premenopausal symptoms. But latest research, which is coming out today, tells that women could be having premenopausal symptoms for attaining menopause. So it's kind of, again, the whole reproductive life, you have to see it as a graph. It starts at menarche, it goes to a peak somewhere around 20s, 25s, and then slowly the body is reaching close to menopause. So the symptoms, what you may experience during premenopause, depend whether for 5 years or 4 years or 2 years you might be experiencing. The symptoms includes things like the commonest symptom, which is very easily confused that it could be something else and not premenopause, is muscle exhaustion, tiredness, or weakness, which the woman at the age of 40, 45 suddenly start to feel. And because it's such a general symptom, and again, you can't test it, and very easily it gets confused with that. It could be because of you recovered from some sickness, you are undergoing some stress, or something else, or you're nutritionally deficient of something. Probably
Right.
because of that, you are feeling that constant exhaustion and muscle weakness. But latest research is pointing out that that is one of the premenopausal symptoms, which starts for many women for 5 years before they attain menopause. The other symptoms are which comes very close to the menopause, probably for 1 year before they reach menopause, are things like irregular cycles. The bleeding becomes very extremely irregular. Suddenly too much, then it stops for 2 months, then it comes for 2-3 days. Then in the next cycle, it comes for 10-15 days, too much of bleeding. So cycles becomes very irregular. You will start experiencing palpitation, extreme body heat, insomnia, mood fluctuation, sometime depression, um, all of that because of the hormones dropping down.
Okay.
So
Is
the
hot
two,
flashes one of them as well?
sorry,
Hot flashes are one of them
hot
as well.
flashes, yeah, is one of the extreme symptoms in premenopause, menopausal phase, and it doesn't end at menopause. So what happens post-menopause is continues. I have many patients where menopause has achieved almost 3 years back or so, but hot flashes, insomnia, palpitation, all of this is continued even beyond that for many years, and they are still waiting for when it is going to end.
Oh my God, I didn't know there are symptoms even after you attain menopause.
Yes, because it is all your body's estrogen levels comes down to complete zero, almost complete zero.
Mm-hmm.
So whatever it was, what was the role of estrogen in your body? Now your body is struggling for all those. Estrogen's two major role, which used to help, which helps adult woman's body is estrogen keeps the blood pressure under control. That's why before menopause,
Mm-hmm.
the rate of hypertension in men is higher than rate of hypertension in women.
Okay.
But after menopause, it changes. The rate of hypertension in women increases because now you don't have estrogen to do that protection to your cardiac health. And the second protection estrogen does in our body is to protect our bones. So the rate of osteopenia, osteoarthritis increases after menopause. Bone density loses or it becomes less after menopause.
So how does one take care of themselves then once they attain menopause?
For your body to produce or have enough calcium to keep your bones strong,
Mm-hmm.
you need to have food intake which is rich in calcium, not supplement. Your body
Okay.
cannot absorb
Supplements,
that much.
especially
It's a
calcium,
waste.
right? Yeah.
So you need to have a good diet.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, calcium absorption in your bones does not happen if your body is deficient of vitamin D. So only taking calcium doesn't help. How do you get the best source of vitamin D is sunlight.
Yes.
What also helps your estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, everything is sunrise, sunset. 2 times get exposure to the sun, which helps your circadian rhythm, which helps
Right.
your sleep cycle, everything. So it's basically going back to the
Basics.
basics. Very, very small looking basics, but they have huge major impact on our body. So
Understood.
get calcium rich food, like simplest thing like ragi, get exposure to morning sun, evening sun, and
Mm-hmm.
do some weight training as you are getting close to menopause.
Yes.
So start
Very important.
lifting some weight to get that calcium absorbed in your bone and keep maintaining your density. The second thing to maintain your hypertension or cardiac health, pranayama. There's nothing better than pranayama when it comes to hypertension. To reduce the amount of asanas and stretches you are doing, and increase the time you spend on pranayama as you are getting close to menopause.
Okay. That's helpful. Um, Now, Nidhi, we've got so many other yoga teachers on the call as well, and I'm sure they are very keen on understanding What should be some of our yogic practices during the entire menstrual cycle? Would you have suggestions for us?
Yeah, so ideally, as I had already mentioned, that you should plan which part of the month you want to focus on high intensity, which part of the month you want to focus on like restorative yoga, which part of the month you want to focus on pranayama. You should divide all of that for your own health, for your own
Okay.
well-being, as well as when you are treating patients who are suffering with irregularities, hormonal issues, and all.
Right.
Then you should try to divide yoga practice based on these phases of the menstrual cycle. So during menstruation, reduce the high intensity workout. Try to stick to simple poses. The best pose during menstruation is Baddha Konasana, Supta Baddha Konasana, and Nadi Shuddhi Pranayama. Very, very effective during the menstruation. You spend a lot of time on yoga nidra because your body needs that extra rest. Then after the menstruation, when follicular phase starts, then your hormones are slowly peaking up, your energy level will increase. So you can start getting back into some extra, like more intensity level of the practices. You can do multiple rounds of Surya Namaskara, spend more time on your limbs, like hands and legs, use them and be more active during the follicular phase. You could get into backward bends if you are trying, because during luteal phase and menstrual phase, you can't do much when it comes to backward bends and advanced poses, because your body muscles start to tighten. You get cramps very quickly. You get aches and pains very quickly during the end of the cycle. So follicular phase is the ideal time to do the backward bends, because after your bleeding stops, suddenly your muscles start to relax and they start to get back into that active state, and you can easily get into backward bends without feeling any pains or struggle. You could get back into Kapalbhati or Bhastrika type of practice during follicular phase. Then during ovulation, your hormones are at peak, but it's a small phase of 2 or 3 days. So connect from your follicular to ovulation. You can do the most high intensity during ovulation. Try the most challenging poses during ovulation. Handstand, headstand, elbow, pinch mayurasana, everything you can try during this phase, but you cannot do it suddenly overnight. So you are preparing for all of that from follicular,
Right.
and you can try to reach to these poses during ovulation phase. Your body heat increases in ovulation phase. That's why your muscles feels better,
Okay.
but you will feel the heat inside your system. And for that, you need to do cooling pranayamas during your ovulation phase. Then the luteal phase, the PMS symptoms will start. Slowly, the muscles will start tightening, the back will start aching, the cramps will start coming back. So, you need to reduce extreme postures, get back to sitting postures, focus more on sitting postures during luteal phase. Janu Shishasana, Paschimottanasana, Baddha Konasana, Upvish Konasana, Setu Bandhasana. These are ideal during luteal phase. Focus more, your mood will be very irritable, fluctuating. So Brahmari and Ujjayi are the ideal pranayama during luteal phase. And then you get back to menstruation.
Beautiful. It's just so beautiful. Like our ancestors also knew all of this and followed the circadian rhythm, followed the proper yogic and Ayurvedic practices. It's just so beautiful to like get connected to all of that again. So thank you for sharing this with us.
Thank you. Thank you
Is
so
there
much.
anything else that you would like to share with us that I may not have covered? And then we'll open it up to our audience for questions.
Let's take the questions. Let's
Okay.
ask people what they want to know.
Okay.
and then I'll answer that. If there is anybody has any doubts and questions, you can please unmute and ask.
Uh, I think Shubha is asking a question saying if there is an IUD, are the cycles still the same? And even if there is no actual bleeding?
Yes, your ovulation, your hormones, everything will still go through the same cycles.
Thank you so much, Dr. Nidhi. The next question is, could you talk about children attaining menarche early and showing physical signs a little bit more?
Okay, yeah. This question has been asked in multiple places by multiple people, like why the girls are getting menarche more early. Today we are seeing some cases 8 years old, 9 years old girls attaining menarche as compared to our generation where we were like 14, 15 when we used to get our first menstrual cycles. And why is this happening? Because the generation shift. Even the menopause has shifted early, where it used to be age of 65 for our grandparents, grandmothers. Now the menopause has, for our mothers, it shifted to 50, 55, and in our generation, it is coming close to 45. I think if we reach 45 would be good enough. But so everything, the whole reproductive life or the age has shifted early from previous generation to next generations. Why is this happening? Lifestyle. How we are eating, how we are living, what pace we are living, what things we are getting exposed to. Children are mentally, emotionally maturing at a much faster pace as compared to the previous generations. And that's why when they are internally, their mind and emotions are ready, the body follows the same pace and gets the kid to attain menarche. We cannot undo any of this. There is no possibility of undoing, delaying any of this. We will have to accept it as because the globally the change which is occurring is undeniable. We just have to accept it. The only thing we can do is how well to manage it. How, okay, if the menarche is happening at the age of 9 or 10, probably just because the girl is ready to reach that menarche. Mentally, emotionally, physically, she is ready for that. So the body has to bring that physiology in. Now, we should not be worried about the age of menarche. We should be rather more focusing on how healthy the cycles are after that. And we should be focusing on that part. That is what we were talking until now, that focus more on whether your cycles are regular, what type of food you are eating, what type of exercise you are doing, have seed cycling included in your cycles. Be in sync with all these practices so that your cycles are the most ideal menstrual cycle it can be.
Thank you for the elaborate answer, Dr. Nidhi.
Thank you.
So the next questions, actually set of questions, is about the seed cycles that you were talking about. So there are two primary questions. One is, how early can you start suggesting these seed cycles to little girls? And the second one is, how about women with different types of hormonal issues? Should one still eat as per cycle syncing diet and work out, or should they be taking into consideration based on their specific hormonal issue, such as PCOS or endometriosis or dysmenorrhea or things like that?
Yeah, so as I had mentioned in the beginning that for first 1 or 2 years after the cycles begin for a young girl, you have to give time for the body to get adjusted and find its rhythm. So we don't intervene anything during that period. You just let the person be and let their body find whatever their pace and way it is. So no diet change, no activity change, no medications, nothing should be done for that first 2 years. After that, I would suggest the person to just understand their cycles and patterns, be more awareful.
Mhm.
What is my follicular phase? What is my luteal phase? What is the length of my cycles? What type of bleeding do I get? For most of the young girls to understand, they will spend few years to understand how their mood gets affected with their different phases of their cycles. So let them develop that awareness first. Let them understand their own body first and their patterns first. Give it another 1 or 2 years, and beyond that, you can start introducing seed cycling. This seed cycling was part of our lifestyle in older days. It used to be included in food and meals. Now we have to do it like a therapeutic intervention. So we can start, let's say if the girl had her first cycles around the age of 10, you wait until 12 not to do anything, then give her 1 or 2 years to understand her cycles. By 14, you can start the seed cycling for rest of reproductive life.
And then would you suggest that after menopause to reduce the quantity of seed consumption?
They don't need to follow this seed cycling after menopause.
Okay.
This is to just maintain the estrogen progesterone. After menopause, generally, women who are suffering with menopausal symptoms because of estrogen depletion, they are given medically, they are given HRT, the hormone replacement therapy, which sometimes work for some cases, sometimes it doesn't help them so much. The natural replacement for them is phytoestrogen, plant-based estrogens, which you include in your diet to increase your estrogen levels naturally, and that will reduce the symptoms of palpitations and heat and all the issues that you are suffering with because of low estrogen levels. So phytoestrogens could be done and post-menopause, but you don't need to follow the seed cycling post-menopause.
All right. Thank you so much. I think we have a couple more questions because I think this is a topic that is so relevant to so many of us. One of the things is that there is a person who has talked about her daughter, but I think I'll just generalize the question and ask you. Especially when daughters start their period, a lot of times they gain weight, and they gain weight specifically around the hip and the breasts and those two general areas. And this is something that girls find very difficult to get adjusted to, get to understand and to adapt to. So is there anything that you can suggest as a way to ease that process for those girls?
This is more a global problem of how we have created an image of a woman's body and how the judgment based on that it's getting percolated down even to the younger girls. It's more like a psychological problem than physiological change issue. Yes, once you attain menarche and once you start having menstrual cycles, your body is supposed to change. Physical changes of menarche. Physiologically, you will start having high levels of hormones and your menstrual cycles will start. But there are physical changes of menarche that your breast will enlarge. You will start growing hairs in the inner parts of the body. All of these, the weight gain in certain parts of the body. These are all normal, healthy physical changes of attaining menarche. This is not an imbalance. This is what they have to just accept. It's a change which they need to accept. It's more a psychological problem, and probably mother can help her by creating a friendly environment and showing her that these things are normal and healthy, and we should be proud, we should be happy about these changes, rather than creating a stigma in the mind and
Right.
that girl is struggling with these adjustments. So probably just as a mother, we have to set an example to the daughters that yes, these changes are completely, absolutely feminine, healthy changes. Nothing to be bothered and worried about these changes. I am happy, I'm proud about it. So should you be. That environment only the mom can create. Little more extra responsibility on the mother. That's all.
Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Nidhi. This was very, very insightful, especially for us to just go back to the basics and understand every phase. How should we focus on food? How much do we rest? And how much exercise and movement do we have? So, this was just very, very, very informative. And although we've gone way over our stipulated time, there are so many of us still here because this is such an interesting topic and there's so much more for us to learn. So thank you very, very much for sharing your knowledge with us. We really appreciate you being here with us. And there are so many more who would like to connect with you directly. So then, we'll share their contact details directly. Thank you, Nidhi.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Nidhi. I think, as people from the Wiki Council, we're very, very honored to have you here. And considering the kind of interests and the, variety of questions that people are asking, we would request you, and, we can take this conversation offline, but if you could maybe curate a course for us about all of this that, people can access over and over again, I think that would really help a lot of people. Thank you so much.
Sure.
Thank you
Thank
very
you, Dr. Nidhi. Thank you. It was very useful. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I will just share